Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Nick Tate. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Sergeant Joseph Gordon Taylor, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome the United States Australian Travel Specialist Delegation, hosted by Visit Canberra, and the delegation representing 1st Recruit Training Battalion, 52 Platoon from Kapooka, New South Wales. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
For those who are able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Joseph Gordon Taylor. Joseph Taylor was born in Sydney in 1894 and was the third of 6 surviving children born to Joseph and Ada Taylor. Joseph attended school in nearby Burwood before completing an apprenticeship as a carpenter. He went on to work as a railway carriage builder, and as a young man, Joseph served in the local militia regiment. In August 1914, war broke out in Europe, and Australia joined the British cause. Taylor volunteered for service in the Australian Imperial Force in July 1915. He undertook his initial training at the Liverpool Army Camp, southwest of Sydney. And at the end of September, he embarked on the transport ship Argyleshire, born for Egypt. Taylor was allocated to the reinforcements for the 20th Australian Infantry Platoon, which was serving in the Gallipoli Peninsula. From Egypt, Taylor sailed to Gallipoli in mid-November and joined the 20th Battalion. Winter was closing in, and the trenches on the peninsula were cramped and unsanitary. Taylor came down with rheumatism and influenza and was evacuated to the hospital on Lemnos Island in mid-December, and then to a hospital in Egypt. He recovered for several weeks before returning to training. In the meantime, the Allied campaign on Gallipoli had failed, and the 20th Battalion had returned to Egypt. When Taylor rejoined his unit in early March, the Australian infantry were preparing to join British forces fighting in Europe. In the middle of the month, the 20th Battalion sailed to Marseille and travelled by rail to the Somme River in northern France. 20th Battalion went into the frontline trenches almost immediately. The men had their first introduction to the industrialised warfare of the Western Front. They came under German artillery bombardment and gas attack, and in May became the first Australian unit to suffer a trench raid by German troops. Taylor's unit went into battle for the first time at Pozières in July and August 1916. In October, the men were in frontline trenches near the border with Belgium when they came under German trench mortar fire. Taylor was wounded by shell fragments in his right arm. He was evacuated to hospital in France and then to England for recovery. After leaving hospital, Taylor underwent further training at the army camps on the Salisbury Plain. And in January 1917, he returned to France and rejoined the 20th Battalion. In February, the unit followed up major German strategic withdrawal and casualties mounted. During one advance, Taylor was struck by bullets in his left thigh. He was again evacuated to hospital in France, before being taken to England for recovery. Having recovered from his leg wound, Taylor once again trained at Salisbury Plain camps and returned to France in May 1917. He had become ill in camp and had to recuperate in hospital for some weeks. When he rejoined the 20th Battalion in June, the unit was outside the town of Bapaume and preparing to move north into Belgium. In the second half of 1917, British commanders focused on the high ground around the Belgian city of Ypres. British and Imperial forces fought a series of battles known together as the Battle of Passchendaele, after the village on the high ground that formed the overall objective. In September, the 20th Battalion went into battle at Menin Road outside Ypres. Taylor's company was the first to advance, with small groups of men dashing between shell holes for cover. The unit successfully captured its objectives and then held them against enemy counterattacks. Taylor had shown leadership abilities during his time with the unit, and he had been promoted to corporal in August. And after the battle at Menin Road, he was promoted to sergeant. In early October, a steady rain set in and did not let up. The ground became a muddy morass, making troop movements difficult and artillery movement almost impossible. Despite this, the British commanders persisted with their step-by-step approach to capturing Passchendaele. On the 8th of October 1917, the 20th Battalion was preparing to launch a major assault when it came under heavy German artillery barrage. Taylor was struck by shell fragments and killed. He was 23 years old. Taylor was initially buried near where he fell. After the war, scattered graves were concentrated in war cemeteries. His grave is in Todgy Farm New British Cemetery in Belgium, alongside those more than 1,000 Commonwealth First World War soldiers. Joseph Taylor's brother also served in the AIF. Private Robert Taylor served in the 31st Battalion and was awarded the Military Medal for his services as a stretcher bearer on the battlefield in France in 1918. Robert survived the war and returned to Australia in May 1919. Sergeant Joseph Gordon Taylor is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Joseph Gordon Taylor, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.